Beau.
So I actually
This
saw...
was your idea, not John's, to do Twisted?
Absolutely.
Hi, welcome to Observations. I'm host John Walsh, publisher of the Palm Coast and Ormond Beach Observer community newspapers.
Welcome to Observations. I'm Brian McMillan, filling in for John Walsh. I'm the executive editor of the Palm Coast Observer, and today I have two guests with me. Beau Wade, actor, director with City Repertory Theatre. Welcome, Beau.
Thank you. It's very good to be here.
Next to you is John Sbordone, co-founder of City Repertory Theatre. So let's talk about StarKid Productions. StarKid Productions. I looked it up, and it was started in 2009 at the University of Michigan by four people: Darren Criss, Brian Holden, Matt Lang, Nick Lang. They made this musical called A Very Potter Musical, parody of Harry Potter, which went viral. And they've been making these, mostly parody musical comedies ever since then. And a lot of them you can just watch them for free on YouTube. They do Kickstarter. And there's 729,000 subscribers on YouTube to their channel. So this is who has created the next show that you're doing, Twisted. And I wondered, where did you encounter StarKid?
So I actually
This was your idea, not John's, to do Twisted?
Absolutely.
This one was my idea, even because it is a parody of a Disney show. John was reticent to get it going because of the Disney.
He's already made a shot at Disney.
There will be more.
Come on.
All I
There will
say
be more
is
shots.
read Victor Hugo and then look at Disney films. That's all.
All right.
So yeah, I actually saw A Very Potter Musical back in 2009 when it first came out.
Yeah.
I did not keep up with StarKid or I wasn't paying vast attention to them. And then one day I just happened to see Twisted on YouTube, and I thought it was let me give that a shot. I watched it, fell in love, and I've wanted to perform in it or direct it since then, which was back in 2014, I think. And last year, right before the pandemic, John had given me the go-ahead. We had a cast, and then COVID. So now we're doing it now.
So Twisted has been on your mind for a long time.
Yes. I've really enjoyed all of it for a very long time now.
So Twisted is, I'll try to describe it myself. Sure. It's a retelling of Disney's version of Aladdin from Jafar's perspective, but with more curse words thrown in. Is that a good summary, or?
Yeah, that's pretty good. While also being a satire of the Disney Corporation itself.
Uh-huh. So I noticed that, what's the name of the town? Pixar?
Pixar.
Pixar.
Pixar is what
you
they call it.
You might recognize, something, a Disney-like company involved in there.
Yes.
So in the Disney version of Aladdin, there's not much sympathy for Jafar. He's the clear bad guy, the villain. Very uncomplicated sort of character, just always does the bad things. So what do you get in retelling of a story? What do you get from humanizing a villain?
Well, I think that nowadays we have a lot of reboots, right? Where I think that what Twisted is instead of just rebooting a story that you already know, you reboot it from a different character's perspective to see that take on it. And by humanizing Jafar, and at the same time they do villainize Aladdin, you just get to see how perspective and different people's perception can color how they view certain circumstances and events. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice look at why did the bad guy do what he did?
Mm-hmm. John, what do we get out of humanizing a villain? Isn't it better just to keep things simple? The bad guys over here, good guys over there.
Humanizing a villain is the history of modern literature. Come on.
I'm trying to be. This is supposed to be a provocative question.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, despite my reluctance to like Twisted, having been at rehearsal night after night, I'm starting to grow to appreciate it because there's a lot of fun involved. Mm-hmm. And so there's that. I mean, I don't think you necessarily do parodies for knowledge or they're entertaining, and this is a very, very entertaining show. And there'll be people who will just go out of there loving it. I've just watched a number that they choreographed, that Beau choreographed the other night. I'm sitting there going, that's good, so.
I think that's what I watched the first number of it, and it is, as it says on the advertisement for it, it's 16 plus. There is language. It's not really a kid's show. But it was interesting in that first number where, again, your expectation coming in is Jafar's the bad guy, and then you start to see that he's actually the wise one who is, everyone else is kind of delusional all around him. And there is surprising emotion that can sneak into, it feels like it's sort of sneaking into this kind of like ridiculous sort of comedy. And, you're surprised by the humanizing of the villain. And I think that is I think that's a pretty good achievement.
Right. And then kind of like in the middle of what you all are saying is that by making it fun and entertaining the way that StarKid has, with the way that they've written it, you're able to sneak in these little nuggets of emotion and find more there than realistically should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you another big difference about doing this show. I have never seen so much color in the costumes than I've seen.
You prefer just black, black box.
That's me.
Very boring costumes.
Excuse me.
Whoa.
I mean, black is not boring.
The actor is the costume.
Oh, okay.
Utilitarian.
The voice.
Utilitarian. There's a little sarcasm in that. Right? Maybe he's heard this before.
I've had actors all in black before. It works. It really works.
There's actually a long tradition of parody as high art. I mean, you could say, I don't know if I totally agree with this, but I read that somebody characterized James Joyce's Ulysses as a parody of Homer's Odyssey, of the Odyssey. Maybe that's a little bit oversimplification, but there's a lot of examples all throughout history. It's taking something that we already know, and then how do you put a twist on it, which it just builds on someone's expectations, and then you can subvert those even as you're going through the story. Sure. Vladimir Nabokov made this distinction. He said, satire is a lesson, parody is a game. And I wondered if you think that Twisted is a satire with a lesson, or is it more of a parody with a game? If you had to give it one of the two, which one would you say it is?
I would probably say parody. I do think that there are moments where it's really scratching the surface of satire. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's quite enough socio-political commentary.
Satire
feels a little heavy. I mean, maybe, but what were we going to say, John?
There are probably going to be people coming in to the show, like myself, who couldn't tell you the story of Aladdin other than there's a lamp.
You haven't seen it recently in the van as you drive across the country with your kids?
My children are a bit beyond, older than that. I don't mean beyond. No, but you can appreciate the show without knowing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure knowing, and I see people in the cast tittering about things. I'm, what the heck are you laughing about? And it's a takeoff on something they know that I have.
Yeah.
There are a lot of references, not just to Aladdin
not just
itself,
Aladdin. Yeah, I read about they're parodying all kinds of things. Yeah. But again, making Aladdin into this, basically villainous actor, and Jafar into the hero who sees everything that no one else does, and Jasmine is this manipulative, person, and the genie is just basically everything that's the opposite of what the characters are.
Right. And I think that one of the reasons that a lot of people do parody, or why it's been such a art form for so long, is because when you take, like you said, a story that you already know, you don't have to do a lot of the backstory characterization. You don't have to explain where they're coming from. Because even though John doesn't, a lot of people do know Aladdin and will know where you're coming from.
Pretty much everybody.
And then when you subvert the expectation, it really lands.
It's okay, but you should watch Aladdin. I mean, it's great. Robin Williams, maybe at his finest.
Oh, is that true? I remember that.
Robin Williams as the genie.
As the genie. Oh,
it's tremendous.
I was a child then. It was a long time ago.
So back to this, so we're going from, you have the Arabian Nights, the original Aladdin, stories. It's been done before, but then Disney takes over and kind of turns it into its own thing. Right. And now you have a parody of that. And it just got me thinking about the form of musical theater. I'm not an expert in musical theater. It's not my favorite genre exactly, but it made me think a little bit about other examples of what musicals are like. What's the future of the musical? Where do you go from here after the parody of the Disney adaptation? Here's an example of what I'm talking about. I recently watched Moulin Rouge. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the movie came out in like 2001 or so. But in Moulin Rouge, you have this character who is singing "The Hills Are Alive" with the Sound of Music, as though that's fresh, and it's sort of like a fresh take on the Sound of Music, reusing it, and you do kind of experience the Sound of Music anew in that. Right. But I feel like there's this kind of anxiety about musical theater that is feeling like it's sort of already been done. So how do we make it fresh? One way is to parody something, make fun of not just Disney's Aladdin, but sort of make fun of the form in a way to create something new out of it. But if we're already there, where we have to parody things to have a new musical, where do we go from here? I don't know if you have answers to this, but maybe you thought about it before. I don't know.
The theater is constantly renewing itself.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about parody, you talk about satire. You go back to, this. You go back to the Greeks. You go back to Aristophanes. You go back to, Aristophanes was doing the same thing with the history of his time that these guys are doing with StarKid. And that will continue to evolve. There are so many new things in theater that people will look at today and go, that will be commonplace 15 years from now. Mm-hmm. I remember when Follies came out in the late 70s, and the brilliance of what Fosse was doing. Nobody had seen that before. Before that, it was Martha Graham. They're constantly going to be brilliance and genius, and that genius is going to see the world in a slightly different way, and then their art is going to follow that. I mean, that's who we are as human beings. We evolve that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's what's exciting about art in general, and I think you're right. I mean, whatever your imagination can put into a black box theater, the possibilities are endless.
Oh man, we're going to be doing. We have a brilliant season coming up. That's probably as full and complete and as interesting as any we've ever done. And our second show, which is going to be a thing called Urinetown, which was a very popular Broadway hit for a number of years. And we're able, and I take great pleasure in the fact that we can start climbing the walls of our theater again and using the full 3 dimensions that we can. It's just a way to do things that,
And just to go back to where you're talking about where theater is going from here, doing Urinetown is actually a satire of Three Penny Opera. But the thing is that many people these days, I would say most people probably, have not seen Three Penny Opera or heard of it. So even though Urinetown is a parody of that, people don't know where it came from. So that is how theater adapts as well. They take the older that has kind of, I won't say forgotten, but kind of been left behind a little bit, and then update it for a newer audience.
Three Penny, it was Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill, and I went to a number of actors and suggested we do Three Penny, and they had no idea what it was. It was just a good enough reason to do it, so we're talking about, bringing it back next year. But Urinetown is fabulous. But we're also doing a new play in March called The Revolutionists, and it's 4 women at the time of the French Revolution who are totally trying to re-envision society at the time. And it's a comedy. It's brilliant. It's fun. It's different. And, it's something that CRT can do. And then we're doing one of your favorite plays after that.
Which is?
Waiting for Godot.
Yes, Beckett. So how can people first of all, thank you for joining me in the interview, Beau Wade and John Sbordone. How can people get tickets to Twisted?
They can find us on Facebook. We are City Repertory Theatre of Palm Coast. And we also have our Eventbrite page, eventbrite.com/CRT.
Yes, or go to our website, crtpalmcoast.com, which is up to date and ready to take ticket requests.
Excellent. Very good. Well, support local art, support CRT. Thanks again for joining me, Brian McMillan, on Observations.